Hey everyone, so before I actually start this what if, I want to take a little time to talk about something that I have been thinking about with my what ifs going forward. Now, I talked about some of the issues and why it takes a while for me to do what ifs in the last part of What If Yang Was a Saiyan, and there was a bit more to it than that. In that video, I talked about how I really just want to make sure that I get everything as right as I can, that I want to do the character that it's about, like, as much justice as possible. But the other thing is that I really want to see where RWBY goes. So I I might be leaving like a couple volumes before I start planning the next one. See, I don't want to catch up too fast. Like, I don't want to get all the way up to volume 7 and then have something happen in volume 8 which ties back into a previous volume, and I'm just like, oh wait, I didn't think of that, and then it has me like rethinking and backtracking and all that stuff. So I want to leave like some volumes like untouched for the moment and just take my time, so that way I can make sure it's at least like the best possible quality. But while that might stop me from updating What If Yang Was a Saiyan for at least a little while, that doesn't stop me from coming up with new what ifs. Like this one. So I just wanted to get that out of the way before I got to the what if. So, thanks for listening to that, if you did, and I hope you enjoy the video. So you remember Weiss's whole thing with Faunus back in Volume 1? How she didn't really like them for most of her life. It caused a bit of a rift between her and Blake. Well, yeah, this story makes that a touch ironic, doesn't it? Hello everyone, I'm your only mate, and yeah, this is a bit of a new what if. Well, for one, it's not one that's based around Yang, and that is, what if Weiss was a Faunus? Now, all of you might be thinking, how did you come up with this what if? Well, it kind of came from me just talking to a friend while playing some Halo about some potential ideas, and then we got to the whole thing with Weiss and Faunus way back in the day. And this idea came up, and the more we talked about it, the more I started to think, oh yeah, this could actually be kind of fun. So, here we are. So in this story, we're going to take a look at how Weiss's character and the story would change if she were a Faunus instead of a human. Now, first things first, we need to establish just how this happens. Because as far as I'm aware, Jacques and Willow don't exactly have any Faunus background, so yeah, these two, not making a Faunus baby. Which means we are going to have to do something that goes more into the fanfiction side of things, while staying relatively within the realm of possibilities with the characters at hand. Also, we made Yang a species from a different series altogether, so I think making Weiss a species within her own series can work too. Now, across the fanbase, there's been all these theories about Jacques having an affair and a bastard child. Now, we're going to use that line of thinking, but we're going to take it a step further and say that Willow also did that. So, both husband and wife got their bit on the side. And you know, if that's the case, that could even lead to something else happening in this story. But anyway. So during all of this, Willow ends up spending a night with a Faunus. And sometime later finds out that she is pregnant, and that her and Jacques are expecting a second child. Ah, excellent. Should Winter side against me, I shall have a new heir for the company. Now, 9 months later, Weiss is welcomed into the world. And Jacques isn't too pleased to find something else down there. No, Weiss is still a girl. She just has a tail. Now, if you're wondering exactly what kind of Faunus Weiss is in this scenario, well, I thought of a few ideas, and after taking all of them into consideration, I ultimately decided Cat Faunus, although more like Neon rather than Blake, whereas she has a cat tail rather than cat ears. And yes, I know that might be a bit samey here, but hear me out. I do think a cat Faunus would actually fit Weiss's character rather well. Because, much like Weiss, cats can be quite snobby. And, as an added little detail, while Blake's favourite fish is tuna, Weiss's is salmon. Something a bit more elegant, which, again, fits into her character rather nicely. So how does Weiss being a Faunus impact her childhood? Oh boy. Yeah, if you thought Weiss had a rough childhood before, then, it's not going to be good. See, Jock despises the fact that Weiss was born a Faunus rather than a human, and demands her to always tuck her tail away, via wrapping it around her waist and having a dress on over it. And would scold her any time it slips out, even among family. Though, I actually do believe that in Weiss's childhood, she and Winter would actually have a much closer relationship in this timeline. Because, like we got to see in the mangas, we would still see Winter taking care of Weiss when she's sick, and I also believe that Winter would just allow her to have her tail out when it's just the two of them. And of course, if Weiss was ever scolded by their father, I do believe Winter would stand up for her quite a lot. Which would also make the rift between Winter and Jacques significantly bigger later in life. And we could also see stuff like Winter telling Weiss stories about their grandfather. Now this is what inspires Weiss. Hearing what a great man their grandfather was just makes her want to prove to herself and to everyone around her that she could be a worthy heiress to his family name, and to his company. But unfortunately, those hopes are kind of dashed when Whitley is born. Now yes, Weiss is very happy at the thought of having a baby brother, but she overhears a little something that Jacques says when holding his newborn son. I may finally have my heir. Hopefully I can retire one day knowing that my legacy is in good hands. So Weiss's hopes for inheriting the company have all just essentially been given to her newborn baby brother. But also, his legacy? Now this strengthens Weiss's resolve to prove herself worthy of the Schnee name. And also tying into her wanting to make sure that her father isn't the end of her grandfather's company. Of her grandfather's legacy. While also at the same time kind of causing some resentment between her and Whitley. So, yeah, childhood is kind of rough for both of them. While growing up, Weiss actually gets inspired watching Winter training, and even wants to give it a go herself. And finds out that she actually has quite the knack for it. And it's with this Weiss decides that she'll uphold the Schnee name as a huntress. She'll go out into the world, protect innocent people, and help bring peace. So now, let's go ahead and fast forward to the day that we see Weiss arrive at Beacon Academy. This is it. This is where she will start to make the Schnee name proud. She'll go to Beacon, she'll get top marks, she'll become the best huntress she can be, and a young girl trips on her luggage. Yep, enter RWBY. And the whole exploding sneeze thing happens, which a friend of mine pointed out. This scene is even just a touch ironic because Weiss is saying how careful you have to be with dust, while also waving it in someone's face and causing them to sneeze an explosion. Yeah, I didn't think that through. And after telling Ruby off, we get Blake coming over to sass Weiss, which causes Weiss to storm off. Only this time, Blake doesn't immediately walk away. She hangs around a little bit because she just can't shake this feeling that she has. There's something off about that Weiss girl. She doesn't know what, but it's something. Okay, so for those who are wondering what I'm hinting at, in the From Shadows manga anthology, Neon tells Blake that there are a whole lot of Faunus that essentially have a tell whether or not someone is a Faunus. And I think it's safe to assume that Blake could do it too, but not as well as like Neon or Sun. So she has that feeling, but she doesn't know why. Hence why she's just there confused. And while Blake is just there pondering, RWBY asks her name, and oh hey, we get a RWBY and Blake interaction. Man, those are rare. Add in Jean, and they make their way to the hall, just like in the original. Only this time, with Blake being there, they arrive a bit sooner. Because remember, RWBY and Jean didn't know where they were going. And so once they arrive, the three of them meet up with Yang. Yang hears about what happened with RWBY and Weiss, and actually thanks Blake for standing up for her. Though Blake does add that there was something about that girl. And Jean adds, yeah, she really is something. Which the others give him a bit of a weird look for. Now we fast forward to the next day where Weiss has her idea of forming the best team in all of Beacon, so that they'll be popular, get perfect grades, be unstoppable, all that's, and you probably know where this is going. She asks Pura, and we know how that scene plays out. Like, it goes the exact same. Though, during all of this, RWBY is telling Blake and Yang that she actually hopes that the three of them end up on a team together. Though, Yang does still encourage RWBY to maybe try being on someone else's team, as, you know, a way to get her little sister to come out of her shell and not become so reliant on just having Yang around. Though Blake lets RWBY in on a little something, and that she has a plan so that the three of them will end up on the same team, as she's actually taken quite the liking to these two. Now, if you've read the From Shadows anthology manga, you know what Blake's plan is, but TLDR, the night before the initiation, Yang was the first person to really treat Blake like just a normal person, so she decided she wants her as a partner, whereas in this story, it's her and RWBY. Now we get to the initiation, and just about all the pairings and interactions for all this go the exact same, so I'll just skip it until we get to the temple where they recover the relics. Now, of course, like in the original, Blake and Yang are the first of the protagonists to arrive. Yang hears a girl screaming, which is actually Jean, while Blake looks up to see RWBY and Weiss riding a Nevermore. RWBY jumps from it while Jean is flung in from seemingly nowhere. Nora rides an Ursa into the area, and Pura shows up being chased by a Deathstalker. Yeah, that's a whole lot of chaos that Blake and Yang witness there. Weiss falls from the Nevermore, Jean tries to catch her, and you know where I'm going with this.
My hero.
My back.
Though this time, Weiss feels like there's something about her that's a little off. She doesn't quite know what yet. But there's no time for that, as RWBY is about to be skewered by a Deathstalker. So Weiss hurries to save her partner by freezing the Grimm's claw and stinger. And she gives RWBY the same speech that she did in the original story about how if they're going to do this, then they have to do it together. But after saving RWBY, Weiss notices that everyone's looking at her in a bit of an odd way. She questions why everyone's staring at her, and Yang points to her skirt, kind of like this shot that Yang does later on in Volume 1. Still confused about all of this, Weiss looks down and she goes silent. Her eyes widened. It's her tail, just poking out the bottom of her skirt. And that's where we're going to leave things for right now. Now, yeah, I know I usually go through the whole volume in one part, but I thought this time I would cut it down, because this moment I thought would make a very dramatic ending and keep people guessing, oh, what's going to happen next? Well, that, and last time I covered a whole volume in one part, it was over half an hour long, so I kind of want to avoid making What If parts that long if I can help it. But I promise I'll cover the rest of Volume 1 in Part 2. Though, please let me know if you like the idea of me splitting up the volumes, or if you'd rather I just go back to the, one volume, one part sort of thing. And, whilst you're at it, let me know what you think of this What If, and what the future holds for Faunus Weiss. Really excited to see what people think of this. Really excited to delve more into this, because I do have plans for the rest of Volume 1 at the bare minimum, and a little bit of Volume 2. I haven't planned super far ahead yet, but we'll see where this goes. Anyway, thank you for watching, and, well, because of who this is about, here's my Weiss outro. Bye.
Thank you for watching Your Only Mate. Tune in next time.